If there was a way to turn goals into results instantaneously, we would all be doing it. If there was a product, a software, or even a surgery that we could get, you better bet the masses would be pouring in to get it in droves, no matter how much that it costs. Because the truth is, we all want to achieve our goals. We all want better circumstances for ourselves. And we all want to win in business and life. But unless you found a magic wand lying around somewhere, the only way to accomplish your goals is still to go through the process of achievement. And in this video, that is exactly what I'm going to be breaking down for you. What is step one of my goal achievement system? But if we haven't met yet before, my name is Kenneth Kolash, and I'm a champion ballroom dancer, a pastor, and an author turned certified business and life coach. And I'm here to help you achieve your goals. So if winning in business and life is important to you, go ahead and subscribe to get free coaching from me and resources from me all year long on this channel. Now, like I said, accomplishing your goals is neither magical nor instantaneous. It's a process. So if you were looking for some clickbaity quick fix to get ahead in business and life, this, I can tell you, is the wrong video for you. But if you aren't deterred by a little hard work, some persistence, and real patience, then you are going to love this video and benefit tremendously from it. You are going to be accomplishing your goals in business and life more predictably and more effectively than ever before, and I promise you that. So get out your notebook, get ready, because we are diving in deep first into my number one foundational step of my goal achievement system, my full focus planner. Now, as I mentioned in my last video, this full focus planner is essential to me, and it's my first step for a few, but many variety of reasons. First, this planner is a physical planner. And as much as I love the convenience of everyday things like my phone, my apps, and other digital softwares, I am obsessed with something that actually slows my mind and my body and my spirit down so I can really think and feel and discern what is really happening in my life and what's truly important to me. Second, this planner is for your business and life. So many times I find planners that are, well, obviously made for more focusing on business or someone's career than their personal life. But I found that this planner is the perfect balance of the two. Third, this planner comes with a system. As we all know, most things are only as good as the person using it. And most planners don't come with any type of guidance or help for the person using it. Whereas the full focus planner comes with an entire system and mindset that actually makes the planner itself more valuable and the user exponentially better at leveraging it. And these are just a few of the key reasons the full focus planner is really essential to me and my goal achievement system. Now, I just want to remind you, I would love to hear from you throughout this entire video. So go ahead and comment below what your current planner looks like, how you feel it's worked for you, or whatever else that comes to your mind. Now, let's move on to actually walking you through my full focus planner. The first page I turn to is my personal mission and values page. Now, even though this section says personal mission, I really like to treat it like a personal vision section instead. And I'll go more into the difference between a personal mission and a vision in a later video. But for now, let's keep it moving. In this top section is where I am able to create and review my personal vision. In fact, there is even a helpful template that you can use that is at the top here, and you can follow it to create an effective vision statement. It goes like this: I am a, now here is where I personally like to focus on my identity. I like to reinforce who I am as a man, a husband, as a follower of Jesus, since who I am inherently precedes what I do. And as a doer by nature, the more I can constantly focus on my foundational truths of who I am, the better I can reinforce them with what I do. And the second step in this personal vision template is this: I exist too. Now here is where I like to put my inspirational, altruistic, all-encompassing statements. These are things like big to-dos that you either really can't accomplish in a single moment or that you want to accomplish in literally every single moment. Statements like love people, be generous, always serve others. Now, the last step of this personal vision statement template is this: I do this by. Now, here is where I like to put the most practical common denominator version of my previous statement. This should be something that you can actually do every day. For example, if your previous statement was, I exist to be generous, your last statement could be something like, I do this by carrying cash on hand to give. See how the previous statement was general, but the final statement was actually very specific? Okay, now let's talk about the personal values section of this page. This section helps me determine what I'm going to value in my life and reflect on how I'm actually living those values out. Things like leadership, teaching, loving, giving, serving, worship, and healing. Those are all extremely important things to me. Now, I want to save you some time and some guaranteed annoyance for sure with how you use this section right here. I want you to redefine how you see the word values. When it comes to sections like this, I want you to think of it more like a monetary thing than a humane thing. Now, don't get weird on me. I'm a husband, I'm a former pastor, so I obviously have a high regard for humane values. But I don't think in most cases that they belong on someone's stated personal values. And why? Well, in most cases, you don't need to be reminded of the values that just make for a functional person in society. Things like integrity, respect, empathy, etc. are not necessarily values to the average person in society. They're necessities. Now, exceptions would be if you are someone who's been incarcerated or admitted into long-term rehab center that's entering back into society, which of course I applaud and I support with all my heart. But for the average person, this section of your personal values should be thought about from a more transactional and monetary point of view. For example, I want you to think of characteristics or habits that you would literally pay money for if it could be permanently yours. Like as if they had a little red pill or a blue pill, wink wink, that you could buy and it would permanently make you value. Things like exercising maybe, or dieting, or being patient, communicating with your spouse, etc. Wouldn't that be amazing? And thinking about your personal values this way will dramatically change the way that you view them, list them, and actually live them out. Now let's move on to the next page in my full focus planner, the annual goals page. This page here is critical to my daily routine because it's where I review the top 10 goals I have for the entire year. AKA, I ask myself at the beginning of the year something that's gonna actually impact what I put on this page. For example, I ask something like, Kenneth, if you knew that whatever you put down in these slots was guaranteed to become reality by the end of this year, but you still had to go through the work to do it, what would you put in these slots? Now, this question may sound a little strange, but there's some real thoughtfulness behind it. You see, when I just kept the first part of the question, I felt like it was a bit of a maybe magic 8-ball type of scenario or a genie type of scenario. AKA, it helped me dream and think big, but it didn't really keep me aware of what it might cost to actually accomplish the goal that I just put down. But the second part of that question, it really brought a counterbalance of accountability to me that reminded me to take into account the sacrifices, the focus, and the genuine work that would be required to actually turn that maybe audacious goal I just wrote down into a real life reality, even if there was a guarantee of success at the end of it. Because I want to remind you, every guarantee of success comes with a guarantee of sowing, tending, and reaping something. All three of which are just another way of saying the word work. And this page not only gives you 10 slots to put your annual goals down, but it has a place for you to write which quarter of the year, let me find it over here, which quarter of the year on this section here that you'd like that goal to be accomplished by. And it even has a place right off here to the left where you're going to be able to check off your goal once it is accomplished. All in all, this annual goals page is perfectly placed right next to your personal vision and personal values page, right at the beginning of your full focus planner. So every time you open it, and I literally mean every time that you open it, it is the first thing you review and get deep into your spirit. All right, so now the next pages that I'm gonna turn to are my goal detail pages. There are actually going to be 10 of these. Now, admittedly, I don't like to view these on a daily basis. I look at these on a more weekly, bi-weekly time frame, but nonetheless, they are extremely valuable to me when I need them. And there are 10 of these, like I mentioned, one to go with each of those 10 annual goals that you set at the beginning. And in these pages, you'll notice at the very top right, there's a really special section up here that highlights 9 different areas and domains in your life for you to check off. This is probably one of the most important parts of the entire planner for me personally. And why? Well, because it reminds me that, guess what? I'm not just a one-dimensional or two-dimensional person. I have many different facets of my life that keep me confident and happy and fulfilled. AKA, if my goals are all checking off this body, mind, spirit section, but I have nothing that is checking off my community or family or any of these other boxes, then I could very well be a healthy individual, but I'm a mess relationally or financially. And trust me, I have been there before. That's why I know this. And it's not as fun or as maybe enlightening as you would think for you to always check maybe one or two specific boxes that come more naturally to you. So in each of these pages, I list my goal here at the top, and I make sure that it is checking off the appropriate box at the top right as it pertains to that specific goal. So like I said, on these pages is a place to list your goal and mark whether it is an achievement or a habit goal. This is also very helpful when you're going through your goals because many times we tend to think of goals as moments to reach or trophies to capture or milestones to stand on top of, but we hardly think of goals in terms of implementing something ongoing or something that is a new way of living per se. Instead, we tend to hope that achieving some benchmark goal that is really admirable to us will somewhat automatically change the way that we permanently live. But I probably don't need to tell you that this is an assumption that is often not the case. In fact, too many times we develop completely unsustainable rhythms within our life to capture some external prize just to end up worse off afterward when we get that reward and return back to our normal lives. Things like diets and fasting and exercise, work deadlines, etc., that get us over the hump of some kind of goal just to send us into a real spiral of exhaustion and really taking us down into the valley of rehab before we can finally climb out of that hole and do it all over again. So don't miss the value of this seemingly small section here because it is not insignificant. Knowing whether this is an achievement goal or a habit goal and actually making sure you balance out the two is critical to winning in both business and in life. Now, the next section on these goal detail pages is the key motivation section. And this section comes a little more naturally for most people. It's the part where we get to put down all the real reasons that we want to accomplish that goal, whether it's an achievement goal or a habit goal. Here is where we find the deep driving force behind why we want to do things like get up earlier, finally start reading, or mustering up the courage to enter into our first 5K race for charity. And this list of key motivations here isn't just frou-frou or hype statements. No, it is designed to be deeply personal and truly effective at giving you fuel for the fire when you've had maybe a few rough days in a row, or energy that may be down, or busyness that is getting the best of you. These lists of key motivations are needed because they need to be strong enough and authentic enough to actually help you overcome even on those toughest of days. And after that section on your goal detail pages is this spot right here for your next steps. Here is where you're going to list the tangible projects or tasks that you'll need to accomplish on your way to achieving this goal. Now, this may sound pretty obvious and simple to do, but I want you to really slow down and think about what work is the smart work to do on your way to this goal up here versus just letting the work hit you spontaneously along the way. Knowing and listing the steps that it's gonna take to actually impact that goal that you put down will save you, I promise, countless hours and enormous amounts of energy from being literally wasted on lesser value work. So determine what are the most important and most impactful next steps that you need to take in regards to this goal here and list them in order in this section. Finally, on the goal detail page is a place to decide on a reward for accomplishing your goal, a place to track your goal's progress, and if it's a habit goal, and you've got this section down here to track it throughout the quarter. Now, this section is awesome because I never have had the idea to strategically think, let alone think at all, about a reward for myself at the end of all of the hard work or the patience, and honestly, the downright crazy faith sometimes that it's required to achieve some of the goals that I've set. Instead, my personality is just prone to running right to the next thing without even giving 5 seconds to, wow, Kenneth, you actually did something, or good job, I'm proud of you. No, left to my own devices, I am completely oblivious to my own accomplishments most of the time. and honestly completely oblivious to the fact that I might even be missing out on the joy of the journey like so many movies and books and people talk about. So these last few sections on your goal detail pages have been a lifesaver for me, truly, because I think without them, I wouldn't really enjoy most of the things that I've achieved. And honestly, I don't know that I'd find the same level of fulfillment in them either. Now, the next pages that I turn to here are my calendar pages. Now, these are very typical and not too much different than the calendar pages in any other planner, but I'd like to show you how I use it in my goal achievement system. For me, the calendar pages are more for getting an overlook of my meetings and appointments than they are for remembering things like tasks or holidays. Now, this is not to say that using the calendars in any other way is wrong. I would just say that whatever is most difficult for you to see the big picture of in your mind's eye, that's what I would use the calendar pages for. And this, it gives you an opportunity to see your entire month as a whole and even reflect on it authentically to see things like, did I enjoy having 5 appointments in that one day? Was that too much? Was it too little, or was it just right? Did I benefit from opening up my Saturdays to meetings, or did that just fall flat on my audience and keep me from doing the things with my family that really mattered? See what I mean? The big picture perspective that these calendar pages give you can be a real benefit when the next quarter rolls around, or really even the next year rolls around, and you're wanting to make tweaks or changes so your calendar this year flows better than it did the previous year. Now, following the calendar pages, I turn to the 12-month view pages. Now, for me, this is just really an expanded version of the calendar pages that we just talked about. I do literally the exact same thing on them, just maybe in a broader, more general type of scale. So instead of meetings and appointments, you're gonna notice different things on here. I tend to put multi-day events, trips, vacations. For example, I'll put down the conference we love to attend every year in California. I'll put down the Alaskan cruise vacation trip that we have planned. I'll take down the holidays that I know will be important for my business or my family to celebrate this year. So again, these 12-month view pages could be used in a variety of different ways, just like the calendar pages. And there's no real right or wrong way to do it. You could do what I do. You could put your goals in here. You could use them in some other creative way that I've never even thought of. Again, I would just reiterate that whatever is most difficult for you to see the big picture of in those 12 months, that's what I would use these pages for. Now, continuing on, the next page I would turn to in my full focus planner is the daily rituals pages. Now, I'm not the biggest fan of this word ritual since it gives off a bit of an over spiritualized feel to this section, but you could just as easily plug in the word routine and it really means the same thing. So I call these my daily routines instead of daily rituals. Now, on these pages, there are 4 different sections that we're gonna go through. First is my morning routine. Second is the evening routine. Third is the workday startup. And lastly is the workday shutdown. Each of these routines are vital to the success of each of my days. And even though these are designed to be somewhat of an ideal, they still give me an immense amount of clarity when starting and finishing all my days. Now, in each of these sections, there is a place to record the things that you are going to actually do during these routines. I might even suggest that if you're rewiring or retraining your mind or body to do something different than it's used to doing, you might even want to record the things that you don't want to be doing during each of these routines. So for some, that will be helpful, and for others, it really won't be necessary. Also, in each of these routine sections, you're gonna notice that there's a place to number the order in which that you actually want to do those activities. Because like any other good routine, there's an order that is most efficient and most effective for setting yourself up for the success that you want in that day. For example, I tend to do better when I get all the notifications and emails and somewhat busy work out of the way before getting to my main projects or tasks for the day. However, I know plenty of others that would absolutely be train wrecked if they did that because distractions or stress would linger and destroy their focus and their productivity when they try to maybe move on to their primary work throughout the day. So intentionally choosing the order that you do the things in and recording it here on the left-hand side is so important, and it's extremely valuable because the more you do this, the more you'll refine your routines until honestly you're walking through each part of your day seamlessly. And the last feature of your daily routines is on the right-hand side over here. It is this, writing down the amount of time that each activity will take. Now, I'm horrible at estimating things like this. I'm almost always underestimating the time something will take and or overestimating my ability to get something done. So writing this down here on the right-hand side here for all of these different routines and tracking it from quarter to quarter, it has helped reveal to me the massive blind spots that I have, which is a great thing. I think without it, I definitely would. It would hold me back from achieving my goals in the way that I want and even in the time frame that I want. Now, next in my full focus planner, we turn to the ideal week pages. Now, just like the title says, this is going to be me organizing my week if all the stars aligned and the world revolved around me, which, just so you know, we're clear, it doesn't. And I know that it doesn't. So here at the top section of each of the days, you're gonna notice that there are places to put a theme. Now this theme doesn't mean that's the only kind of work that I'll do in that day, but it does act like a guideline for me to know the kind of work that I'm trying to batch together in any of these specific days. For example, if on Monday the theme is meetings, and maybe it's even on there for a variety of different days, you're gonna notice that what I'm saying to myself or anyone else that has access to my calendar is that I'm trying to be extremely people-focused that day. I'm not trying to mix deep mental work like writing or reflection time with the work that is a little more relational or a little bit more people-oriented. For me, that's extremely difficult to bounce between and honestly a recipe for failure and burnout. So putting down a theme for each day in my ideal week has been immensely helpful to me and my wife and my assistants, because now we all have a general idea of what kind of brain work and space I'm trying to be in for that day, knowing, of course, that this is still just an ideal and somewhat of a utopian view of my calendar. Next, on these ideal week pages here, you're gonna notice that I'm gonna chunk off parts of my day that pertain to my daily routine. And we just talked about those. I'm gonna put in my morning routine, my workday startup, my workday shutdown. I'm gonna put in all of those routines, even maybe a sleep routine. And after that, I'll write in the times that I'm going to be occupied with things like work or church, for example. Things like even maybe you could put in here things like family time, exercising, time for your hobbies. The long story short is that with my ideal week, I try and picture which days I want to do which things and how much time I would want to do those things. Then I write it down so that every quarter when I reflect, I see exactly how well that worked, what I wanted to keep, and what I maybe want to tweak for the next quarter. And over the years, I've been able to really dial in exactly what my ideal week truly looks like for me to be winning in business and life. Now, following this page, I'm gonna turn to my project tracker page. Now, again, I'll mention this, not all of these pages are 100% necessary for everyone to use in every season of their life. Some of these sections of the planner may feel like overkill or redundant to you, so my recommendation is don't use them. When you don't want to use them, don't use them. When they don't apply, don't use them. But when the next quarter rolls around, if you find gaps in your productivity or places where the ball has been dropping in your processes, I want you to circle back around and see if some of these sections within your full focus planner can help you get back on track. And one of those sections for me was the project tracker section. Like I said, I'm a bit overly optimistic when it comes to how much I can do in a short amount of time or even over the long haul. In fact, sometime last year, I was reflecting after finishing one of these planners at the end of a quarter, and I realized something. I didn't really finish anything that I started. I felt busy all quarter and I felt productive, but at the end of it, I hadn't really finished what I had really wanted to finish and what I had begun. Things like website changes and client processes, social media plans, etc. A bunch of stuff that was 50% done and 75% done and 90% done, but nothing was actually finished. This was a huge problem and a massive red flag for me. Thus, I returned to these project tracker pages. And once I did do that, and I thought that that would be a waste of my time, but it turned out to actually be the accountability that I needed to write down, to track, and to make sure that I actually completed most of the important projects that I wanted to in that quarter. This was probably, honestly, one of the best decisions that I made, and I had waited far, far too long to do it. And it cost me literally probably months of time and money and energy and productivity. So how do these pages actually work? Well, quite simply, actually, you're going to actually name the project at the top. You're gonna put down the due date and define what those milestones in each of these sections look like. What is the 25%, the 50%, the 75% completion? What do those moments actually look like? And then from there, it is as simple as drawing lines as you complete those stages of the project. So whether you want to record that line of progress in crayon, lipstick, it's totally up to you. And as long as you're using this project tracker page, I promise you'll be more on track with your deadlines than you ever have been before. Now, moving on, I'm going to turn to the weekly preview pages. Now, as you can imagine, these pages come up before every new week throughout the quarter, and on them is one page devoted to reflecting on the previous week. And another page is focused on planning the next week. Here on the first page, you're gonna notice a section called the After Action Review section. And this is where I'm gonna list my biggest goals from the previous week. And I find this one part of the weekly preview pages the most beneficial to me personally. Because, like I said earlier, I have a tendency to just run through my days and burn through my to-do list without any regard for what I'm accomplishing or even what I'm not accomplishing. And this section not only reminds me of what I have to be fulfilled by and what I've accomplished that previous week, but it also reminds me of what I did not accomplish that last week and that I probably should have. Sometimes I think I'm being productive and I'm being really productive and really moving my goals forward, when in reality, I just had a week of succeeding in the things that didn't even matter to my goals. And this can be a truly sobering thought to someone like me, and definitely affects how I plan my upcoming week when I get to that section. Next is a question of how far did you get on your goals, your weekly big three? AKA my top 3 goals from last week. Now I list out last week's weekly big 3, and then I record over here the percentage that I actually accomplished those goals. And sometimes I'm really excited with what I write down, and other times I'm really disappointed, as I was this week. But in either case, I'm better off than I was before I filled out this section, because I get the needed feedback for my planning for next week so I can be more effective the next week than I was this week. Following this section, I'm asked, how did you perform on your habits? And there's a little monthly checkbox here next to it. Now, if you don't have any habit goals, like obviously I don't at this point in time, I'd recommend that you would get some. But if you don't, for you, this section does not need to be filled out. However, when you do have a habit goal, here is where you get to see if you really have been as faithful to it as you intended to be. Again, I love these sections because there's really no room for gray area. It's pretty black or white. And although it's not comfortable, it's the kind of feedback that you need along the journey to accomplishing your goals. Finally, on the last section of this weekly preview page, I'm asked, how will you improve next week? Now here is where I'm jotting on all the thoughts, ideas, and experiments that I got from these sections that I want to implement into my next week's routine, planning, and goals. Now it could be as simple as reaffirming what I wanted to do last week, but didn't follow through on. It could be tweaking how much time I allot to something in a routine. Or it could be breaking up one of the weekly big 3 goals I set last week into smaller chunks and smaller goals that I can accomplish more easily this week that will lead to that one big goal being accomplished much faster. However you do it, these sections here of the weekly preview page are gold mines for your personal reflection and planning for your next week. Speaking of, the second page of the weekly preview is about planning and preparing for the upcoming week. And at the top of it, there are a few things to actually check off the list before you get to the sections below. It has you go through your personal vision and values, your goals, your open tasks, the notes, calendar, and the projects, and oh my, so many things to go over. This sets your perspective in the right place before you begin planning the upcoming week. Now in the section after that will be a place for you to write in all of the tasks that are coming up the next week, like in your personal life, in your professional life, or your career. This here, it helps you get a full look at what needs to be done and gives you a clear picture when you set your weekly big 3 and what matters most. The next section after that is called rejuvenation. Again, I'm not crazy about that wording either, so I think of it more as like a replenishment section. And in this section, there are 3 spaces for you to fill out and list things that will refuel or re-energize you throughout this week. This could be things related to moving more than you usually do, sleeping more soundly, or eating in a way that doesn't make you feel terrible afterward. For example, I've typically put things like use my standing desk at least 5 minutes every hour I'm working, lights out at 10:30, shut down work at 7 p.m. no matter what. Things like this that guard my energy levels or emotional stamina are perfect for me to put in these sections. For you, it could be something completely different, like you may put paint for 15 minutes every day, call a family member or friend, or something else I have never even thought about. Whether you're guarding yourself from overextending or giving yourself to something that's replenishing, either way, you're using this section here correctly. And the next section of the weekly preview page is this weekly big 3 at the bottom. Here, you're going to choose the 3 most important projects or goals that you have for the upcoming week. And although this seems simple and relatively obvious to do, most of us just take our to-do lists or start checking things off without regard for what's really important. Remember how I said I wasted months of my life accomplishing things that didn't even matter to accomplishing my goals? Well, not taking this section seriously is exactly why. So use this section to set your 3 most important goals for the upcoming week and use them as a guideline as you set your priorities each and every single day. And finally, let's go to the final section of the weekly pages. It is the calendar section of your weekly pages. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Kenneth, didn't you already show us a calendar page before? And the answer to that question is yes. But that calendar page, I only fill out once a quarter. And between then and the current week, honestly, I'm very likely to need a refresher. So on this page here, the weekly calendar page, I jot down all of the meetings and appointments that I have that specific week. And this gives me a good overview of what exactly I can expect and what's in store for me, and really just a good general snapshot of my week that's coming up. Now that we wrapped up the weekly pages, it's time to flip to the next place I go to in my full focus planner, and it is the daily pages. And as you might have noticed, this entire planner has been leading up literally to these pages, literally to this moment. The moment that's make or break for my goals. Because I either do what I need to do today to advance them or I don't. Here is where the full focus planner funnels me down to so I can make the right decisions and work on the right work that actually gets me closer to accomplishing the goals that I've set. Now again, some of you might be thinking, Kenneth, I don't need a drawn out funnel like this to really know what my most important priorities are. If that's actually true, then congratulations, my friend. You're literally part of the extreme minority, at least for now, that has the ability to hold your entire life into focus just within your mind every moment and every day. But not only is that probably not going to last forever, like it didn't for me since I used to be like that, but it probably isn't the most duplicatable model of productivity either, since most people that you lead, hire, or train will never be able to manage their work and priorities in that same way that you can at this moment. So these daily pages are literally full of amazing points that are going to help you funnel your big goals, your busy calendar, and the many tasks into a daily plan that actually helps you succeed in the moment so you can succeed in the long run. And the first section of these daily pages is right here at the very top, the check boxes that are going to help you check off your morning and evening routines and your workday startup and shutdown. And the next section I typically fill out is actually right here. It is the schedule section, where again, I'm going to rewrite the meetings and appointments that I specifically have that day. And finally, I fill out the daily big 3 here, very similar to the weekly big 3. Now, this section right here is extremely crucial to get right because it is the direct form of accountability you're going to use with yourself, or even a coach like me who's helping you, to make sure that you work on focusing on the right work that matters the most. And to be honest, I don't always get this section right, but because I'm always filling this out, I never get too many days of distraction in before my daily pages begin telling on me, reminding me that I haven't accomplished the real objectives that I've really just been stuck in busy work or being distracted in some kind of way. Or it's reminding me that the things that I thought were getting me closer to my goals really aren't working for me after all. In either case, choosing 3 of the most important things that I have to get done every day really helps me feel an innate sense of urgency to get that work done. It creates a sense of focus and almost like a good version of tunnel vision instead of feeling overwhelmed by the literal bazillion things that sometimes go on in my brain that I'm currently juggling. And as a person who loves to check things off a list, I feel this sense of progress in a major way along the way instead of just at the end of something when it's completed. This daily big 3 system has worked wonders for me. And the final section of our daily pages is down here at the bottom, and it is the daily win section. Now, this is pretty self-explanatory and very simple, but again, don't underestimate the power of this either. Like I mentioned in the weekly preview page, stopping for even just 30 or 60 seconds a day to acknowledge your own progress is substantial towards motivation and inspiration, confidence, your self-awareness and self-esteem, and literally I could go on and on and on for the benefits that are there. It's like the gratitude journals that have become super popular to use, or even taking time to meditate every day. Writing down your daily win or wins may feel awkward at first, but it'll pay massive dividends to you as you journey along toward your goals. I promise, just trust me in this. All right, my friend, you've made it to the final part of my full focus planner, which is the quarterly review pages. Now, this part of the planner here is almost exactly like the weekly preview pages, but with a slight adjustment, for it needs to be expanded to a quarterly perspective. Now, you'll notice we have the same after action review section here at the top, just like we did in the weekly preview pages, listing out our biggest wins from that quarter. There's a section right beneath it to list the weekly big 3 goals that you had from the quarter and what percentage of those goals that you actually completed. And then at the end, there's a section to reflect on those goals and on your progress and what, of course, worked, what didn't, and why, and how we can change for the next quarter. Now, these are the sections of the quarterly review that are practically synonymous with the weekly preview pages, but just a little bit of a different flavor to mix it into a quarterly perspective instead of a weekly one. Okay, now the final section of our quarterly review that is extremely different and powerful is this what will you section. Now this section has 4 quadrants in it, as you'll notice here. There's the what will you keep section, the what will you improve section, the what will you stop, and what will you start sections. All 4 of these quadrants are fantastic at drawing out thoughts, ideas that will make your next quarter even better than the last. And below this section is the final section, the very last thing that you're going to do in your full focus planner. And it is really a checklist of things to do before moving on to next quarter's full focus planner. And voila, just like that, you've gotten a full tour and a deep dive into step 1 of my goal achievement system, my full focus planner. Hopefully you've seen why I use this planner and why it is the first step in my goal achievement system. If you want to try a full focus planner for yourself, there's a link to them in the description below. But remember, this is just the first of 5 steps in my goal achievement system. And in my next video, I'm gonna be going a deep dive into the second step of my goal achievement system, my Hero on a Mission planner. So subscribe and turn on those notifications so you can catch the next video right when it drops. And remember, the first 100 people to join my email newsletter will get a free signed copy of my book, Beating Average. Just go to kennethcoaches.com to join before the others beat you to the punch. And I'll see you in the next video.